Hi folks, my name is Keenan Taylor. I am a scientific illustrator and fantasy author. This channel is mostly devoted to Chimera, my speculative biology project and setting for my literary work. Enough of you asked my thoughts on Jurassic World Dominion that I decided to give it a go now that I've finally had a chance to see it. Although Walking with Dinosaurs was my introduction to dinosaurs in motion pictures, Jurassic Park was a very exciting and informative aspect of my childhood, and the themes of failing to contain and control the natural world, and using prehistoric animals as antagonists in a horror context, has absolutely influenced and inspired my own work. The Jurassic Park trilogy, like many of you I imagine, is near and dear to my heart. Jurassic World is, at its core, a reboot of the first Jurassic Park movie. I enjoyed the main characters, in particular Claire Dearing as played by Bryce Dallas Howard. Her growth from being a distant corporate figure who comes to see the assets as living creatures felt fresh and a cool angle to take for a character. Owen Grady, played by Chris Pratt, was carried by the actor's talent and charisma combined with the cool factor of his partnership with the Raptors, but I found the core of his character as written one note and not all that interesting. The second Jurassic World movie came with its own highs and lows. I really appreciated the horror elements of this one. Dinosaurs make much more compelling horror antagonists than action antagonists in my opinion, but whatever, we gotta let them fight I guess. I wasn't enamored with how they got dinosaurs to the mainland in terms of plot, but people trying to control nature for profit is consistent with the narrative themes, so I can't knock it for that. I much preferred the hybrid in this one too. If you're gonna make a hybrid, make it a creepy monster, not just another big dinosaur. Also, this trilogy's obsession with hybrid dinosaurs is a little weird considering all the dinosaurs in the park are hybrids. Maybe this is a reflection of how much I like the Planet of the Apes movies, but I remember thinking after my first viewing I would have preferred a disease be how they took over the world rather than just being released, since I would bet my meager millennial savings that the Coast Guard would have find and gunned down 40 confused dinosaurs in a completely new habitat in 3 days tops. However, I can now appreciate that a global paleozoonotic pandemic destabilizing America and allowing fast-growing GMO dinosaurs to propagate, while our safety measures were otherwise occupied, is not a plotline that would land well in our current context, so we can set that idea to rest. Spoilers ahead, so you've been warned. Jurassic World Dominion takes place 4 years after the closing events of Fallen Kingdom. Dinosaurs have spread throughout the globe. This is something that would have been really neat to explore further, but there was so much that they had to do in this movie, and I can appreciate why they had to jump. There's only so much one movie can do, so I wouldn't count that as a serious mark against it, just saying that it would have been cool to unpack more. There are several concepts in this movie that I found really intriguing, but there is so much going on, so what could have been several interesting plots for 3 or 4 Jurassic movies were instead reduced to backdrops. I really wish that there had been some way to have more time, and perhaps maybe a format of a short TV show, since rushing pacing I think accounts for most of this film's issues. Lots of great ideas, but their execution was always rushed, and I am a bit frustrated that nostalgia and fanservice was so often the priority over substance. The idea of an international dinosaur smuggling ring could have promise. We got a lot of glimpses of that potential in the Malta sequence, showing that the demand for entertainment, meat, and novelty fighting could certainly have influenced their spread across the world. But again, this movie feels so rushed that it's only ever implied or given a throwaway line. Dinosaurs starting life very small would make them pretty easy to smuggle, and that's most of what we're shown in the sequence, which makes sense. It could have been an opportunity to shine some highlights on the horrors of animal trafficking, especially if there was a global catastrophe hindering any regulations. Trafficking is a widespread issue in the real world, so the plotline isn't predicated on that, but I do think the Locust plot should have been moved up to add to the chaos of the world and making instability a larger theme of the world building. More on that later. I was glad that they debuted feathered raptors in this film, but I think the Atrociraptors in Malta would have been better for it. The smuggler Santos even says they're thoroughbred. Maybe the character is just dropping jargon to sound hardcore, but if you want thoroughbred, predatory, brutal raptors, going with a pack of feathered Dakota raptors and giving them all the chaotic bastard energy of a parrot, I think could have landed really well. Instead, we got kind of sloppy macaw feathers on a semi-aquatic pyroraptor that couldn't decide if it wanted to swim like a penguin, a grebe, or a crocodile. To be clear, I like the idea of a semi-aquatic raptor a lot. I even think Pyroraptor is a good candidate since it lived on a bunch of islands and having some semi-aquatic adaptations makes all kinds of sense. Just give the poor man some proper feathers. I haven't yet designed the semi-aquatic freshwater firebirds of my own project, but I'm planning on giving them integument reminiscent of an anhinga, one of my favorite birds. Not saying Jurassic World designers had to go with that bird in particular, but coloration and feather structure that aligns with a semi-aquatic lifestyle would have worked wonders for this design. I swear they did what they did just so we wouldn't guess it was semi-aquatic and they could land that half second of shock when it started swimming. Shock and subverting expectations is a critical aspect of modern media, after all. Alright, so we gotta talk about locusts. This is probably my favorite aspect of the movie from a writing perspective. The idea of a corporation playing the market by first introducing seed, and then GMO locusts that only feed on competing crops, is exactly the sort of thing Biosyn would do. It's also dead on with the themes of the original film on the hubris of thinking we can command nature, especially when this threat spirals out of control. I get that the locusts aren't as marketable as dinosaurs, but that is a threat to the world that would destabilize things and draw the attention of our full resources, thereby keeping our guard down or at least distracted, letting dinosaurs establish themselves in America and beyond. Could feed into all of the other plotlines really well. I wish that this had begun even before Fallen Kingdom, and had been a brewing existential threat. By the time of Dominion, food is being rationed and the locusts have done irreparable damage. They've now started targeting Biosyn food, and that's when they lose control, which is when the characters team up with a guilt-ridden Dr. Wu to save the world. Is it a dinosaur movie? No. But I think it could have set the stage for a dinosaur takeover and more importantly been a sobering critique of the sort of heinous tactics industrial farming has done on smaller operations and family farms, and have been right in line with the themes of the original series. A short TV series with this as the overall antagonist I think would have been a stronger format to tell this story. What we got instead felt so rushed and there were so many missed opportunities. The solution to the locust problem, well, I don't know, personally I felt it left something to be desired. This was a dinosaur movie, so how were the dinosaurs? They were fine. I think Jurassic World would have been a film to introduce updated dinosaurs. Not 100% pure so as to leave room for future updates in our understanding, but have a contrast in their more real behavior and appearance compared to the dinosaurs in the park, which in both the story itself and from a meta perspective have a established brand appearance. Instead of hybrids, have the park fall apart when a 98% genome Triceratops goes on a territorial killing spree that couldn't be predicted because they were trying to not tamper with it as much, something like that. Since we didn't get that angle and are stuck with dinosaurs from the 90s, they have to be accepted for the dated park attractions they are, and not critiqued as dinosaurs. I like that the Dilophosaurus got a comeback, and it was fun to take down Dodgson the same way that his crony got taken out in the first film. I do think it would have been silly to have Blue tag along with the rescue operation, but it was a bummer that she didn't get very much screen time. Quetzalcoatlus got a fun, if comically overpowered, segment. Most of the herbivores followed the convention of this series as lumbering gentle giants. It worked in the park because they had their aggression and fear stripped away to make them docile and manageable, but the wild ones could have been more aggressive. I did like this aspect of the horned dinosaur stampede sequence. I admit I've got some beef with Giganotosaurus. Would have landed better as another hybrid or perhaps an undiscovered Carcharodontosaur. Perhaps a giant relative of Concavenator. Show us that not every dinosaur bitten by the amber mosquitoes is also in the fossil record. And oops, we found this giant monster. I assume they added scoots and fin to differentiate it from the Rex, especially in low-lit sequences, which I can appreciate. That said, a way to differentiate it further would be in shape and behavior. Giganotosaurus was much more laterally compressed. Front view would have been more sleek, and they were a lot less agile. They were bite-focused like a Rex, but it was a sawing motion, not raw bite strength. show it biting and using that hefty back muscle, jerking the head back and forth to rip apart prey or an opponent. Instead, we got something that looks very little like its namesake, but behaves and fights exactly like the Rex. Was the Therizinosaurus sending a 300-pound deer flying like it was made of tissue paper, or impaling a GMO Giganotosaurus with crocodile hide in any way sensible? No. Was it hilarious? Absolutely. This Edward Scissorhands fool was pure bastard. My wishes for an aggressive herbivore and feathered, scary dinosaurs answered beautifully by a frothing monster running on 3 neurons and raw spite. Therizinosaurus was my favorite part of this movie. Flawless. No notes. Alright, this one a bit longer than I anticipated. For all my complaints, I did have fun. Was it good? No. Was it fun? I thought so. My recommendation is to watch it without much expectations. It's a shame that it couldn't deliver on the quality I do see potential for, but as a blockbuster you can kick back and watch with some friends, it's fine. I liked the characters, both original, world cast, and new characters, but no one got enough screen time, which was unfortunate. Maybe it was their plot, but I definitely felt the original park cast shined the most, and it was a nice send-off for them. I'm still holding out for a TV show adaptation of their first novel with updated dinosaurs and an R rating that goes full-on into the horror aspect of the book. I know it's not likely, but a man can dream. Anyway, cutting myself off there. Check back in tomorrow for an episode on the domesticated lions of Khmer. Stay fantastic, everyone. Cheers, folks!